The alarm hit before I even reached the control desk, a deep red pulse rolling across every screen in the station, and my first thought was not fear, it was disbelief, because the last time that alarm sounded, we lost an entire cargo bay to decompression. I slammed my hand on the console and pulled up the feed, and what I saw made my heart freeze mid-beat. A crate in Bay 4 had opened. Not been opened. Opened itself, the seal torn clean from the inside, metal peeled back like it was nothing more than dry leaf. I checked the manifest with shaking fingers. Criveth juvenile specimen. Class 9 Apex. Transport authorization pending. I had heard of the Criveth the way every trader in this sector had heard of them, in warnings passed from one captain to another. In old reports nobody wanted to read twice. A species built entirely for hunting, born under 3 suns on a world where nothing weak survives past its first season. Adults stand taller than a loading crane. Their bite alone is rated to breach hull plating. This was not an adult. But 4 months old on a Criveth is still large enough to end a life without slowing down. I opened every channel at once. Lockdown. Now, I said, and my voice cracked on the word now. Doors across the station began sealing, one after another, a wave of steel closing behind the Cub as it moved. I watched it on the feed, low to the ground, ears flat, moving with a speed that made my stomach drop, cutting through corridor after corridor, and every single door closed just in time except one. Corridor 12C, the maintenance route. I screamed into the comm for someone, anyone, to seal it manually, but the automated system had already logged it as an active personnel route and refused the override, and by the time I got my hands on a manual switch, it was too late. Someone was already walking through. His name tag read Dale, a maintenance technician, toolkit slung over one shoulder, and he rounded the corner into the open concourse without any idea that 400 meters away, an animal built to end him in seconds had just come to a stop, staring straight at him. "Run!" I shouted into the open comm channel, not caring who heard me. Get back now." He did not run. He stopped walking, tilted his head slightly, and looked at the creature the way someone might look at a puzzle they were not expecting to solve today. Every other body on that concourse had already scattered. Traders, diplomats, station workers, all of them gone in seconds, leaving nothing but empty floor and flashing red light between one very calm human and one very frightened predator. "I need backup on 12C, I said, keeping my voice as level as I could manage, while every part of me wanted to scream again. "Hold your people back," said a voice on the emergency line, female, breathless, like she had been running for a long time. "This is Grace, Animal Transport Division. That Cub has been loose since a shuttle malfunctioned 3 systems back. Please, nobody corner him. He already thinks the whole galaxy is trying to hurt him." I watched the screen, unable to look away, as Dale slowly lowered himself into a crouch, the exact opposite of what every training manual on this station would have told him to do. "Hey there," he said, and the audio pickup caught it clean, calm, almost bored, like he was talking to a stray animal outside his own front door. "You are not supposed to be out here, are you?" The Cub's hackles were raised along its spine, throat sacs flared wide, a low growl rolling out of it that vibrated through the floor sensors 2 decks below. Every threat display a predator has was fully active. Every specialist I had ever spoken to would have called this the final second before an attack. I gripped the edge of the console so hard I felt the metal bend slightly under my fingers. Dale did not move back. He clicked his tongue softly, twice, and said, "You are just a baby, aren't you? Somebody left a door open on you. That is not your fault. None of this is your fault." The growl did not stop, but it changed, the pitch dropping, less warning, more uncertainty. "Come here," he said, patting his knee like he was calling a pet across a quiet yard. "Come on, it is okay. I promise it is okay." For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. I did not breathe. Nobody on that channel breathed. Then the Cub's tail, still too big for its own body, gave one small, uncertain wag. I actually said something out loud, some sound I do not have a translation for, because in that instant the growling stopped completely and the throat sacs folded flat against its neck. "You want to come here," Dale said, still crouched, still small, still radiating absolutely nothing that resembled fear. "Come on then." And it came. Not slowly. It came at a full run, 400 kilograms of muscle and claw and teeth covering that distance in under 2 seconds, and I remember thinking with total clarity that I was about to watch a man die on my screen, and there was nothing left I could do about it. Dale did not step back. He did not raise his arms to protect himself. He opened them wide, and let the impact carry him straight onto the floor. And I heard, through the open comm, a sound that took my translator a full second to correctly identify. Laughter. Okay, he said, half buried under the animal. You are strong, you know that. Yeah, you are. The cub had its jaws wrapped around his forearm, teeth that could tear through cargo restraints closing around him, with no more pressure than a house pet mouthing a favorite toy. Its tail beat against the floor so hard I could hear it rattling equipment 2 rooms away. Grace arrived at a dead run down the far end of the concourse, out of breath, stopping dead the moment she saw the scene in front of her. Oh, thank goodness, she said, staring. He is not usually like this with strangers. Most handlers cannot even approach him without full restraint gear. He is just excited, Dale said, scratching under the cub's jaw while it kicked one back leg against nothing at all. Aren't you? Yeah, you are just excited. You found a friend. I sat there at my console with my heart still pounding, watching a man calmly rub the belly of a creature that had, 20 minutes earlier, sent 400 people running for their lives, and I understood in that moment that I did not understand humans at all. Later, once the cub had been secured, gently, without a single restraint drawn tight, without a single moment of struggle, I asked Dale to come by the control office. I needed a statement for my report, and honestly, I needed an explanation for myself. He sat across from me, calm as he had been the entire time, sipping something warm from a paper cup. Why did you not run? I asked him directly. Because every instinct in every species I know would have told you to run. He shrugged, like the question surprised him a little. We have been doing this a long time, he said. Back on my homeworld, there used to be an animal that scared entire villages, moved in packs, hunted anything smaller than itself. Somewhere along the way, one of my ancestors decided to feed one instead of running from it. That was a very long time ago. Now half the houses on my street have one sleeping on the couch. You could have died, I said, still shaken. Maybe, he said, but he did not look worried, not even a little. Scared and hungry looks different from scared and lost. That cub was not hunting anyone. He was terrified. He just did not know how to show it any other way except by looking dangerous. I filed the report that night, and I added something to it that no review board on this station had ever seen before. A note recommending a change to our threat protocols for any Class 9 predator encounter. The recommendation was simple. Before assuming the worst, check if there is a human nearby, and check whether that human has already noticed the animal is afraid. I thought that would be the end of it. It was not. 3 days later, the real trouble started, and this time it was not an animal that had escaped confinement. It was the ship that had lost it. A transport vessel arrived requesting emergency docking, damaged, engines flickering, and the moment it locked onto our systems, I understood why the Kryveth Cub had ended up loose in the first place. The ship belonged to a group calling itself the Vanguard Collective, and according to the flight logs Grace pulled the moment they docked, this was not their first cargo run involving young Kryveth. It was their 11th. They had been capturing juveniles from Kryveth breeding grounds and selling them across 3 systems, disguising the transports as standard livestock shipments, and the malfunction that let the cub escape near our station had not been an accident. It had been sabotage, from inside their own crew, someone trying to stop what they were doing before it went any further. Grace found me in the control office, her face pale, a data pad shaking slightly in her hand. There are others, she said. 6 more crates on that ship. 6 more cubs, and judging by these transport records, at least 2 adult Kryveth are already on their way here looking for them. I felt my stomach drop for the 2nd time that week. Adult Kryveth do not think like traders or diplomats. They do not negotiate. If they believed their young had been taken, they would tear this station apart searching for them, and there would be nothing any of our defense systems could do to stop that. We need to get those cubs off this ship immediately, I said, and we need to make sure whoever is coming for them sees us returning their young, not holding them. Grace nodded, already moving toward the docking bay, and I followed her, my mind racing through every possible way this could go wrong. The cargo hold of the Vanguard ship was worse than either of us expected. 6 crates, stacked tightly, each one barely large enough for the creature trapped inside, air filters clogged, temperature controls failing. These animals had not been cared for. They had been shipped like cargo because that was exactly what someone had decided they were. Dale was already there when we arrived, called in the moment word spread through the station about what had been found, and the look on his face when he saw those crates was the first time I had seen him look anything other than calm. "This is wrong," he said quietly, running a hand along the edge of the nearest crate. "These are just kids. We do not have much time," Grace said. If those adults arrive and find their young still sealed in crates, nothing on this station will stop what happens next. Then let us open them, Dale said, already reaching for the release mechanism on the first crate. Wait, I said, grabbing his arm before I could stop myself. We do not know how they will react. Fear made that first cub dangerous. 6 of them, together, panicked, in an enclosed space. That could be far worse. Dale looked at me, steady, unshaken. Then we do not let them stay panicked, he said. We do exactly what worked the first time. We show them nobody here is going to hurt them. I wanted to argue, but I had no better plan, and time was running out faster than any of us wanted to admit. We opened the first crate together, slowly, and the cub inside flinched back into the corner, smaller than the first one, thinner, clearly weaker from the journey. Dale crouched immediately, same as before, voice low and steady. Hey, he said, it is okay. Nobody here is going to hurt you, I promise. It took longer this time. The cub did not run to him. It stayed pressed into the corner, shaking, and for a long moment I thought this one would not respond the way the first had. Then Dale did something I had not expected. He sat down completely on the floor, put his toolkit beside him, and simply waited, saying nothing at all, letting the silence stretch out between them. Minutes passed. Grace and I stood back, watching, saying nothing, letting him work in whatever way he understood that we did not. Slowly, the cub crept forward, one careful step at a time, sniffing the air, watching him the entire way, until finally it pressed its head against his hand, and I heard that same strange, high-pitched sound the first cub had made, a sound Grace had once called a bark of relief. One by one, we opened the rest of the crates, and one by one, Dale repeated the same patient process, sometimes with help from a young station worker named Noah who had wandered in offering assistance, sometimes with Grace guiding the calmer ones toward food and water while Dale worked with the more frightened animals. By the time all 6 crates stood empty, the cargo hold looked less like a smuggling operation, and more like some strange, chaotic gathering. 6 young Kryveth moving carefully around 3 humans, and 1 very exhausted station officer, none of them growling. None of them afraid anymore, at least for the moment. That was when the proximity alarm sounded. 2 large signatures, dropping out of transit space directly outside the station, moving fast, and I did not need to check the readings twice to know exactly what they were. The adults had arrived. Every defense protocol on this station told me to raise shields, arm every weapon platform we had, and prepare for the worst, and my hand was already moving toward the alert switch when Dale spoke. Do not, he said, firm, steady, no trace of panic in his voice at all. If you raise weapons at 2 frightened parents looking for their children, you will get exactly the fight you are trying to avoid. Then what do you suggest? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended, because I could feel every second slipping away from us. Open the docking bay, he said. Let them see their young are safe before they see anything else. Grace's eyes went wide. That is incredibly dangerous, she said. So was walking into that concourse 3 days ago, Dale said, and it worked then. I had exactly no time to argue, and exactly no better plan, so I gave the order. Open the outer bay doors. The 2 Kryveth adults entered the station slower than I expected, their massive frames barely fitting through the docking corridor, every sensor on the station screaming warnings about their size, their speed, their sheer physical power. If either of them decided this station was a threat, nothing we had would stop them from proving it. Dale walked forward, alone, into the open space between us and them, 6 young cubs trailing loosely behind him, and for one long, terrible moment, nobody moved. Then one of the adults let out a sound that shook the entire hallway, and every cub in that room bolted forward, not away from the adults, but toward them, tails wagging, small bodies weaving between enormous legs, and I realized, watching it happen, that I had been holding my breath the entire time without noticing. The adults lowered their heads, checking each cub carefully, and slowly, the tension in the room began to fade, replaced by something I had never expected to witness between our 2 species, something that almost looked like relief. Dale stood quietly to the side the entire time, hands loose at his sides, letting the family reunite without interference, and only once every cub had been checked did one of the adults turn its enormous head toward him. I froze completely, certain this was the moment everything fell apart. Instead, the massive creature lowered its head slightly, almost like a bow, and made a low, rumbling sound that Grace later told me, after consulting every record she had, was closest to a sound used between Kryveth parents thanking another parent for protecting their young during a hunt. Dale simply nodded back, calm as ever, and said, "You are welcome, buddy. take care of them. By the following morning, the Vantic collective crew had been taken into custody. Their smuggling operation reported to every Allied system in range, and the 6 young Kryveth, along with their parents, had departed peacefully. No weapons fired, no lives lost. Nothing but 2 very different species finding a way to understand each other for a few critical hours. I filed my final report late that night, longer than any report I had written before, detailing everything that had happened, and at the end of it, I added one more line, something I never expected to write when I first took this posting. We spend so much time studying which species are dangerous, measuring claws and teeth and bite force, cataloging every possible threat, and somewhere along the way we forgot to study the one thing that might matter more than any of it. Not what a creature is capable of, but what it chooses to do with that capability when nobody is forcing its hand. Dale left the station a few weeks later, transferred to another posting further out in the sector, and before he left, I asked him one last question, the same one that had been sitting in the back of my mind since that first day in the concourse. "Are you not ever afraid," I asked him, "of anything at all?" He thought about it for a moment, longer than I expected, and then he smiled. "Plenty of things scare me," he said. "Just not the ones everybody expects. I am more afraid of what happens when good animals get treated badly than I am of what they might do if someone finally treats them right." I never forgot that answer, and I never forgot the sight of 6 frightened young creatures, capable of ending a life without effort, choosing instead to lean their heads against the hand of a stranger who simply refused to be afraid of them first. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the room is not the one everyone is staring at. Sometimes it is the one quiet enough to notice that the danger was only ever fear, wearing very sharp teeth.